one of the things you come across a lot when people talk about domestic abuse and domestic violence is, well, why didn't she just leave? And I recently saw somebody make quite a public comment relating to the domestic abuse that they've received, and they were getting help and support, and it had gone through the courts and everything. And one of the comments on there from a member of the public was, well, you get hit once and you're a victim, you get hit again by the same person and go back, then it's your own fault. And it just demonstrated the lack of education there is around domestic abuse, and this perception that, well, why did you go back? And I think awareness on that is really needed. So to those people who have asked those questions of survivors of domestic abuse or those in those relationships, here you go. So why don't you leave? You've got pets. Well, you could say I've got pets, and my abuser hits my pets, and my pets are really important to me, and I stay for their protection. Why don't you leave? The children, the kids, because when you've packed all your things up and you've got sort of your little boy in one hand and your little girl in your arm as a baby, and your little boy's crying saying, I don't want to leave daddy, I don't want to leave daddy, because he doesn't understand what the issues are at such a young an age. And what are you to do? Are you to leave your children in the care of an abuser, knowing that they might not be safe? Do you stay knowing that you aren't safe? Do you tear the kids away from their dad in such an emotional state, worrying whether they'll resent you for that forever, for the rest of their lives, for making them separate from him? It's a really hard decision, and it's not as easy as just walking away. Why don't you leave? Well, my partner has control of all the finances. I have no money, I have no job. He's restricted me from going out and getting work. He's restricted me from accessing any of the finances. I have no place to go. I'm trapped in these four walls, and in a way this is the safest place for me, other than if it's not this, it's living on the streets, and he could find me again. And that leads on to why don't you leave? Fear that if I do make a disclosure, if I do try and speak out, if I do leave, then it could end up worse for me. My situation could be a lot worse, and I could end up dead. And I know a lot of abusers will make out to friends, family, whoever will listen, that the person that they're with are crazy, they're mental. I know I had that. I got branded a lot as crazy, mental, and so just walking away and just sort of leaving that relationship and trying to speak out about it becomes so much harder, because you already know that these people think that you're crazy and probably making it up before you've even spoken about it. So why don't you leave? And one of the most simple ones is that I don't think anyone else will love me in the same way this person will. And I know that was true for me. Because I hadn't had the best luck in relationships. I hadn't been in abusive ones, granted, but I hadn't had the best of luck. And so suddenly I found this Prince Charming who was able to offer me everything I ever wanted. An abuser will never show you they're an abuser at the beginning, otherwise you wouldn't date them. That comes later. So you have this idea of them and this perception of them being the only, the person that makes you the happiest girl in the world. And then when the abuse starts to come in, it will come in really gradually, so you don't even see it. And you doubt your perception of love. And, when people would say to me, you don't get on, why don't you just leave? Because there's no one else. And I need to feel love just like anybody else does. So it's not that easy. And I think people need to think quite hard about that before they ask that question.